This is a true crime in real time update from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
On November 20th, 2024, 30 years after she let her car roll into a South Carolina lake with her two young sons strapped inside, Susan Smith sat before the parole board. She was 53 years old, her voice calm yet pleading as she said, "I know what I did was horrible. I am a Christian, and I know God has forgiven me." Her appeal for mercy was underscored by the words, "I just ask that you show that same kind of mercy as well." But the board was unmoved. The decision was swift. Parole denied. The soonest Smith can reapply will be November 20th, 2026, and until then, her life within the confines of the Leith Correctional Institution will remain unchanged. Outside those prison walls, her ex-husband, David Smith, expressed no surprise and no forgiveness. "I don't think she'll ever be rehabilitated," he said in a tearful interview earlier that day. "She's never been really sorry for what she did." For many, Susan Smith's name is synonymous with betrayal. The nation watched in 1994 as she tearfully begged for the safe return of her sons, 3-year-old Michael and 14-month-old Alex, claiming that a black man had carjacked her vehicle with the children inside. For 9 agonizing days, her story dominated headlines, her cries broadcast on every major network. And then came the confession that shattered everything. There had been no carjacker. Susan Smith had deliberately sent her children to their deaths. The horror of that revelation reverberated far beyond the small town of Union, South Carolina. But while the public's fury may have dulled over 3 decades, it flared anew as Smith's parole hearing approached. David Smith's pleas were a stark reminder of the tragedy's weight. "That's only 15 years per child," he said of her 30-year sentence. "How is that justice?" Inside prison, Susan Smith's record is far from spotless. Over the years, she has racked up infractions ranging from contraband possession to inappropriate relationships with guards. 2 prison staffers, one a guard and the other a captain, were convicted for engaging in sexual misconduct with her. Most recently, Smith was punished for breaking prison policy by discussing her case and crime in depth with a journalist. The journalist reportedly deposited money into her account, a transaction Smith seemed eager to capitalize on, hoping the release of a documentary would coincide with her parole bid. The violation cost her 90 days of privileges, including phone and tablet use. Yet, for all her claims of remorse, Susan Smith has earned no education credits during her incarceration, a telling omission for someone professing a desire to turn her life around. Instead, her time has been defined by a series of jobs: bookkeeper, secretary, canteen operator, library helper. These roles paint a picture of daily life, but they do little to erase the shadow of her crime. The parole board's decision marks another chapter in a story that refuses to fade. The murder of Michael and Alex Smith remains one of the most infamous cases in modern American history, a case that raised chilling questions about trust, motherhood, and the limits of forgiveness. While Susan Smith awaits her next chance at freedom, the scars she left behind continue to ache for those who loved her children. The Susan Smith case is one of those stories that lingers like a bad memory, a moment you wish you could forget, but know you never will. 30 years on, her name still sparks anger, confusion, and heartbreak. Sitting here today, it's impossible not to reflect on the layers of this tragedy and what it says about justice, humanity, and the ability or inability to forgive. When you look at Susan Smith's life behind bars, you have to ask yourself, what has changed? Sure, she's held jobs, some low-level clerical roles, others more mundane tasks like landscaping. But when you look at her disciplinary record, it's hard to see a true effort to rehabilitate. Instead, you see repeated boundary pushing, from contraband to improper relationships, culminating in her recent attempt to profit from her crime. Communicating with a journalist, accepting money into her account, it paints a picture of someone still trying to control her narrative, even while locked away. And then there's David Smith, the father left to carry the unbearable weight of this tragedy. His pain is as raw today as it was in 1994. Imagine hearing the person who killed your children ask for mercy. Mercy? It's no wonder he stood before the parole board and made a tearful plea to keep her behind bars. His words were simple but powerful. That's only 15 years per child. A grim arithmetic that doesn't add up to justice. What really stays with me, though, is how Susan Smith weaponized the country's biases all those years ago. By blaming a non-existent black man for the disappearance of her children, she ignited a manhunt based on a lie that played into America's ugliest stereotypes. It wasn't just deceitful, it was deliberate, calculated, and cruel. That detail still stings, not just because it derailed the investigation, but because it revealed how deep her manipulations could go. So, where does this leave us? With a parole denial that feels like a sliver of relief for those who feared she might walk free, but also with questions that have no easy answers. Can someone like Susan Smith ever truly be rehabilitated? And if not, what does that mean for the concept of redemption itself? For now, the justice system has spoken. Susan Smith remains where she's been for the past 30 years, behind bars. And maybe that's where she belongs, and that's all for now. We'll keep digging and getting you the facts. Thanks for listening. Be sure to press subscribe so you don't miss any of our updates.
In a world where the darkest secrets lie just beneath the surface.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence says otherwise.
Where hidden killers roam, unnoticed, in the shadows.
I think you would definitely be looking at a blend of toxic, very bad narcissistic personality traits, and they will be vengeful and possibly resort to violence.
Join Tony Brueski as he uncovers the truth behind the most chilling cases.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence clearly says otherwise.
Each episode, we dig deep into the minds of those who commit the unthinkable.
To your point on narcissism, he thinks in his own mind how witty he is.
Yeah.
But he lost that jury. I was done with him in 2 minutes.
From unsolved mysteries to infamous crimes.
Geez, you've just talked about how you taught yourself how to do everything under the sun. I bet you did a YouTube video, how to best kill somebody with a knife.
Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski takes you where few dare to go.
How does someone with such a dark secret go unnoticed for so long?
With multiple new episodes every single day.
We're not just telling stories, we're seeking justice.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski.